Let me start with you, Suhaib, if you don't mind. You're in business development, so you talk to clients, or at least potential clients, day in, day out. From your experience, how well is the Esco business understood in the sector? Let's say from two sides, from the owner side and from the operator side, whether it's a property manager or facility manager. Do they understand the Esco model, basically?
There is a challenge. Marketing is very crucial for the Esco business, especially in our line of business. There's not much of an awareness about the Esco business model, so it takes some time to bring them up to speed, to make them aware of this initiative. I think I can use this platform to ask all, I'm sure that many of you had the experience in working with an Esco or had a successful project. So having this information available, whether in papers or sharing this information, can make our life much easier and can encourage all the organizations to uptake an energy service performance contract. So there's a lot of work to educate people, because I think I can break down to the three main challenges that we are facing with the clients or the asset owners. Is first, awareness about the whole initiative. Second, the procurement laws that these organizations follow, because it's not the normal tendering process where you have like 3 bids and you choose the lowest bid, and with a predefined scope, it's totally different. So this whole, let's say, procurement ecosystem, how it can be adopted by an organization. And the third one is that what's in it for them. You have an FM team on board. They're doing their work since tens of years ago. They're used to fix things when they break. So how would you like to bring someone on board? Are you challenging their FM? Are you challenging their capabilities? So what will the Esco do? Will they make the FM look bad at the end of the day, or will they complement the work that they are doing? So all of these, these questions, they always arise, and it's repetitive with all the clients. So I'm asking Escos, even the property owners, if you have any successful projects, any experiences, please share them, make this information available. It's good for us as the Super Esco for Abu Dhabi and approaching projects, good for the clients to uptake these types of projects, and good for the Escos, because at the end of the day, we are the market maker in Abu Dhabi. We try to make businesses for these Escos. We want to have a very interesting, let's say, regional Esco market here in the UAE, ourselves, Etihad, and all of the partners across the Emirates.
So you mentioned it could be taken in a way as if you're challenging the operators of the building and their FM companies, and if they're doing a good job or not. Let's say they understand the Esco model, but they don't want it for any reason. Is there a culture of energy management and energy efficiency within the industry, even if they don't want to outsource that? Is there that culture within the organizations?
Absolutely, there is a culture actually. There's some policies and strategies that, like demand-side management strategy of Abu Dhabi for an energy rationalization. There are so many policies. Organizations have, especially government, they have annual reporting they have to do in energy efficiency. So there is this culture, but now the challenge is how to expedite this process. The strategy is very ambitious. The targets are very ambitious, and like 2030 is like 7-8 years away from here. So to be able to achieve these initiatives, I think you should have a suite of solutions, whether internal initiatives, Esco model, and so many things just to achieve these targets. Moreover, the tariff is a challenge. The low tariff does not make these projects attractive. So it doesn't give the right to anyone to just consume energy just for the sake that the tariff is low. So this is like, there is some initiatives, but we can, we have to do a lot of things to expedite the process.
Okay. Rachid, you're the VP of Energy and Technology at Enova. the right man in the right spot. So if we're to ask you what technologies, what new technologies are out there in the Esco market, and what are the main challenges? And we know almost all technologies come with their own challenges. So what would be the main ones you can tell us about?
Right now, we've seen a merging of a new word called Energy 4.0. And under this umbrella, we can distinguish three axes. The first one is the new technologies themselves. The second one is the digital. And the third is the distributive solutions. When it comes to new technologies, also basically we've been focused a lot on HVAC systems, but now we are trying to give a more holistic approach when it comes to building retrofitting by tackling water savings also, and also to try to bring the best experience for the occupant by monitoring, for example, the indoor air quality and so on. The second point on the new technologies is more and more the supplier, manufacturer, and so on. They have this additional challenge to build and to put in the market a more efficient equipment. Right now, the cost-derived choice is not the only selection criteria anymore. Right now, on the Esco model, for example, the most criteria is the payback, which means the best efficiency on the best cost. Regarding the digital, of course, it's obvious that the data is the raw material when it comes to energy management. From the data collection until the monitoring, dashboarding, KPIs, and all those tools that make the energy manager their life easier in order to take the right decision in terms of how they have to manage to drive the equipment. Obviously, between the data collection, everything related to IoT and so on, until the monitoring, we have plenty of layers that are contributing strongly to make the building more efficient, such as artificial intelligence, data quality, data processing, and so on. Last but not least is distributive solution. Of course, we are also watching the market, some toolbox such as drone, for example. At Enova, we are doing thermal imaging by drone. It's most cost efficient. It's in terms of health and safety, it's more efficient also. We can catch, how I would say, the envelope of the buildings and to see where is the leakage. Based on those data, we can analyze them and to give some advice and to fix those leakage. We see also some area of application when it comes to virtual reality. For example, we are using VR either for training and HEC induction, but also to build some environment, more immersive environment for our energy manager in order to have a better insight about what is happening on the buildings.
Okay, great. Do any of the other panelists, would you like to add anything to the technology aspect of your Esco projects?
I think I want to add that technology is constantly evolving, no? And this represents for us both a challenge but also a great opportunity. It's a challenge because you need to keep updated with everything that is happening, which is not necessarily easy. And you also have the challenges of bringing technologies from other parts of the world to here, which may or may not directly be adaptable, no? But I think the great opportunity is that every year that goes on, we have actually more retrofits and more savings that we can achieve than we had earlier, no? And this is, I think, a great opportunity as well, because sometimes we also encounter, let's say, challenges, talking about what was referred earlier, where a customer has had, for instance, an audit made 2 years back, and was not particularly happy with the outcomes of it, may not have chosen at that point in time to advance into, a retrofit. But now, because of these new technologies that have come up, we may actually achieve a much higher level of savings and be able to have a much more interesting or feasible retrofit there. So I think this continuous evolvement will gradually bring more and more opportunities and more end users to this journey of energy savings. No? On the other hand, just wanted also to kind of second what was said about data, and also quite interesting what you said earlier about this exercise that RSP is launching, because for an ESCO like us, the main challenge is getting access to data, reliable historical data of the building performance and energy usage of the systems within and how they are being used, because a lot of the energy savings come from optimization, and that optimization can only be done if you have data that you can compare against, no? So all of this, I think, brings quite an interesting opportunity for us moving forward, that we have increasing chances of securing more savings in new end users. And I think this is what we need as I would say, a collective of industry experts, is to do more retrofits and to achieve more savings.
Okay, good. While you have the microphone, you run a company that promotes a lot of energy performance contracting, shared savings, guaranteed savings. And from what I know, you usually like to pitch for longer term projects. In doing that, what main restrictions or hesitations there might be from the clients, typically when you're pitching a 5+ year project?
I think that's a great point. We face that recurrently. We need to understand first why we do it, no? So that we can understand what is our value offering. There are a number of challenges in the market that we try to overcome. For us, the main objective is always to maximize the savings that we can get from any given end user, no? So not to go after the quick paying actions only. They are good, they should be done, but not only that, because that will only give you a certain percentage of savings, but go after the big items that represent a larger investment, but also a larger opportunity for saving. Now, usually what we have seen historically in the market is if you present a customer with a relatively low percentage of saving, but a payback of, say, 1 to 2 years, the attractiveness of that becomes more interesting than if you, even if you give them a higher savings, but for a 5 or 6 or 7 years, no? But in our opinion, the first option has a lot of caveats attached with it, which is you are actually neglecting to capture a large proportion of savings. Because if you take this action isolately, I will give you just one small example. If you take an optimization of set points in the thermostats or in the chillers, whatever, you can even argue that this is zero cost, a zero investment, because it's just a configuration that you do and you achieve a certain volume of savings, which is excellent, no? It's a great opportunity without either no or very low investment to make something. But you may still have 15 or 18 euro chillers. Now, to change a chiller, the investment attached with it is significantly higher, and the payback attached with it is also significantly higher. Maybe we are talking about 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, again, depending on the tariffs that you are currently using and the running hours that those chillers have. Now, if you take these two actions isolately, a board will always approve a 1 year or a 6-month payback action with a very low investment. But they may not approve that you spend a lot of money on a 7-year payback action. This can be applied to many other points. Now, what an ESCO does, essentially, is to aggregate all of these in one project. And now it's neither 1 year, neither 7 years. It may be a 4-year or a 5-year aggregate project that, yes, has a longer payback, but has the potential of not capturing 1 or 2 or 5 in savings, but to capture 30 or 35 or 40. And this is, I think, the greatest opportunity that we have. Now, convincing people on the other end that this is something that they should do is always, let's say, the challenging part, no? It's not the easy part. What we try to do in order to do that is first to explain why we are doing it. And I think we need to start there, no? It's not because we wake up one day and thought that 5 is actually an excellent number, no? There's a rationale why that is that. Tariffs also play an important role. I mean, we do projects here, we do projects in Abu Dhabi. If we take the same project here with a 3-year payback, and you do exactly ipsis verbis the same thing in Abu Dhabi, you are now facing a 6-year payback project there. So, and the only difference between the two is how much you are paying, no? So this is also kind of an education that we need to do. But ultimately also we make contracts where customers can exit at any point in time. So there's of course some terms to do that, but our argument, and look, we have signed, I think the longest contract we have signed has been 10 years, and we have signed several of those. We are now actually getting ready to sign a 12-year contract, which will be, again, the longest that we have signed. And we are looking at opportunities where we're looking at 15 years. For us, the argument is not how long the contract is what do you get in exchange of that. Now, if I sign with you a contract for 15 years where I take care of every aspect of the operations, maintenance, and usage of your energy-consuming equipment, my question becomes, why not? No? You have no downside on this, plus you can exit at any point in time you want. Becomes a simpler value offering. I think if I may just to finish, I think the biggest challenge the Escos face is we are trying to explain a very complex technical work in the simplest way we can. Because if we enter into these arguments on how you actually do the engineering to do this, how you calculate using IPM, VPM, and V option C method to recognize savings, nobody gets you. You are talking in a completely different language. However, this is what we actually do. So we need to convey a highly technical and complex language in a very simple to understand way, with key points, what you get, how much you pay, what you save, so that we can move forward.
Sure. Let's see how simply and effectively we explained all this to the audience, and we open the floor for questions.
I would like to ask you, Elie, about the incentives that the government has or will put in the future to incentivize the building owners to make retrofits, and also for the tenant to go and live in a building where it is energy efficient. Obviously, he will save on his energy bill, but is there other items that could incentivize the tenant as well as the building owner to retrofit his building from one side? And from the other side, would there be a penalty for the older buildings that could be imposed to, if you don't upgrade your buildings, you will have a penalty? Taking as an example, the cladding before, where they said to the people, you have a very old building, you have to upgrade your cladding to be fire rated and to be fixed in a certain way, otherwise you're going to have a penalty.
The main incentive is, as you rightly mentioned, is reduction in energy bills. So this is why those guys are here, this is why Escos are out there, this is why that activity by itself is rewarding and the incentive is built in within it. But apart from that, we are looking into options. One of them is what I mentioned earlier, is maybe with time and with a bit of push that could translate into added value into the property market. So just as an example, and don't quote me for that, maybe it might affect the rental index. Maybe people can charge less or more. Maybe it could be an incentive, or maybe it could be a penalty. So maybe they cannot charge more, but they'd be charging less if they are inefficient. We've looked at schemes from around the world. So for example, in Australia, there's a scheme called Neighbours. And without many incentives introduced, it was found that the property market for those buildings who performed higher on the Neighbours scheme we're going for higher rents. And one of the incentives that the government offered, and I'm not sure how applicable it would be here, is that the government is a client that everyone wants because they rent buildings for a long period of time, and they're an easy to deal with client, at least in Australia. They only looked at properties with a certain neighbor's rating, so they didn't look at low-rated buildings, they looked at high-rated buildings. So there are several options that we are looking into, but the main thing is that we want to collect that data. We want to see how buildings are performing, and then from there we see what incentives or penalties, carrot or stick, we use to entice the market.
My question is, every year there will be new technology, new ways to save energy, all right? Every technique, everything is considered as an investment. How easy or difficult to convince investors to keep investing every year, especially the ROI takes like, what, 2-3 years or more? And the second part is, what will be considered the highest energy consumption factor in the UAE or the GCC?
I'll answer the first point, and I'll leave someone else to answer the second one. I'll answer the first one. Why? Because we are, as an Esco, we invest in our own projects, so we are investors. And I can say that we invest not only in the start of the project, but when we have, for instance, a 10-year-old project, we continuously invest in it. Our KPI for that is what is the return that I'm having. So if I have a 10-year contract and I am on year 4, and I have a new technology that was not available when we started, that has, say, a 3-year payback, it means I still have time to invest in it, install it, achieve the savings, collect my money and my return expectation on the 6 years I have left. And I can do that every year until it stops becoming economically feasible. Now, we have had projects where we have, for instance, extended terms and said, look, I've signed a 5-year contract, but now, 2 years in, I have a new technology, or maybe there is a new need that for me requires 2 years more on the contract to make it work. So I just extend it from 5 into 7. Our ideal utopical scenario is we enter a building and we never leave. So we sign a 5-year contract, we extended 5 years more, we extended 10 years more, we extended 5 years more. We never leave. Why? Because the need of an existing building will never stop. No, you need to change equipment from time to time. It's just the nature of it. Equipment reaches an end of life. So, utopically speaking, a retrofit is a continuous process that is evolving as new technologies evolve as well. So I don't see any obstacles. I see investors like us actually interested in doing this more and more often. So that this cycle continues to feed itself, because again, this is a very important point, we collect our money from the savings, which means the more I save, the more I get.
Henrique, can I ask, how
Please.
old is the company that you work with, Taka?
So the Taka's been here for about 9 years. So started up as your, I would say, usual startup story. There must be a better way of doing this, no? With 2 guys in 1 room. And fast forwarding until now, we have been acquired by a local family office to allow us to deploy capital in the projects that we need, no? So this is for us the most important thing. Capital has been for a long time an obstacle, no?
I don't want to put you on the spot, but has your results equated to your explanation just now?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, what I can tell you, just to make that point, is that my investors are raising, another round because they want to invest more. The question I'm asked is not, why do you bring me this? Is why don't you bring me more? Because I want to invest more. They see a fantastic return on this. And when I say this, I'm not saying that we are taking advantage. What I'm saying is that them as investors that can invest in real estate or in any other fields, the returns from energy savings, they see as a much more interesting opportunity, financially from one end, but also socially, because you are actually making a positive impact.
There was a second part to this question. What element of the building is the highest consuming of energy?
Basically, if we talk about UAE region, is the HVAC system. Everything related to the cooling. It's followed by the lighting. But as I said earlier, the technologies of savings in HVAC system and lighting, I do believe it's very mature now. That's the reason why I mentioned earlier that we are trying more and more to go and to catch the latest kilowatt hour to bring to the whole savings, especially when it comes to water savings. And I need also to highlight one point, is that all what we are doing also should keep the best occupant experience in terms of indoor air quality and comfort.
Does this mean that in the Esco we're looking at replacement of facades or poorly built buildings, going back to the first question here? Older constructions that are just consuming energy because they've been built incorrectly? Or are we looking at other commercial type application?
So just for the new building briefly, the main challenge of the new buildings is the baseline, because the building is just born recently, and there are a lot of technologies to make thermal modeling of the buildings in order to deduct the baseline, and after that we can check if the expectation of the owner based on what the commitment of the developer was in terms of savings. When it comes to retrofitting of the existing building, the same challenge is also the baseline. So we have to put more and more monitoring, data logging, and so on to understand what is the behavior of the buildings, and trying also to go deeply to understand more the breakdown of the consumption. Once this is done, we can tackle deeply each point of and each opportunity of savings.
My input is, cooling is the highest, energy intensive in buildings. When we first invented the refrigerant, we used to use the ammonia as an refrigerant. Now, ammonia is being looked at it as a negative way, even though it has the COP of 6 compared to conventional refrigerant. And I've been after this subject in many seminars and conferences. I want to know why this is not being reconsidered, because there you will have automatically 25% to 30% energy saving. And other thing that needs to be looked at, the tariff in this part of the world is 24 hours is the same. If we change the tariff, for example, reduce during the nighttime, and we build a storage and use the energy during nighttime and use the ice during the daytime, that could also smoothen the energy demand. And the third point is, we use for this recooling plant chemicals, which eventually end up into the sewer network. Ozone would be another option for making sure that this system will be performing well on heat exchanging sites, and also you will be having lesser pollution going into the drainage network for the sewage treatment plant.
Thank you for these points, but unfortunately for the time of everyone here, you touch in very important topics, and topics that are actually close to my heart. I work in the ammonia industry for quite some time. I think there is a couple of things that we could say about this. I think ammonia systems are very interesting in terms of energy efficiency, for sure. That's why they are used in the major industrial applications. I don't think they are the only solution. We are actually doing now some CO2 solutions that I would invite you also to have a separate talk about. But the main concern has always been the risk. No, it's a highly toxic chemical. Then the right way has no issues. I mean, this has been done for many, many years. But you need to pay attention to some, let's say, more restringent concerns. But I think it's a wonderful option in terms of energy efficiency. I don't think it's the only one. And as I said, CO2 has a great potential, particularly with the latest developments in the last 2-3 years. these can be quite effective. The tariffs point, I think you touch, which is very important. We talk a lot about tariffs, and we always talk about increasing. Sometimes it's not only about increasing, it's changing it, no? If we change tariffs to reflect a different pattern, like introducing things like time of use or seasonal, peak and off-peak, reactive power, load. I mean, there are many other variants that you can affect that can introduce this penalty and incentive duo that make people kind of shift their attention.
A couple of things I can add on the last two questions. On tariffs and how the curve looks, I think things are changing with the penetration of solar power also. So that peak that we used to have in consumption is in many places being met or partially met by solar production. So instead of storing that energy to use it at night, if you use it at the time it's needed, sometimes it makes more sense. So the dynamics are changing. Earlier, time of use tariff was popular in terms of changing that pattern, but there's a lot of studies on how effective it is and how it should be tailored to the production profile of a certain country and the consumption profile and make those meet. In terms of district cooling, the RSP is regulating the district cooling sector, so we are actively working on developing regulatory documents. Some are technical in nature, some are more related to commercial stuff. So we're rolling out this regulatory framework, and hopefully certain challenges will be addressed.